Hey, what's up guys, it's Kelly and today I'm sharing the 6 most intimidating books that I have on my TBR. If you find yourself enjoying this video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out, and if you're new here and would like to see more of me, then please subscribe. So I own many books. We have discussed this at length in the last 2 months. I got a lot of books, but some of them are slightly more appealing than others, and I've been really good recently about trying to cull my bookshelves and get rid of the books that just are not sparking joy in me. However, a lot of books have stayed behind that do not spark joy because I do want to read them and I do feel that I would probably enjoy them, but I'm just really scared of reading them. So looking at them actually kind of fills me with a sense of existential dread because I am just like terrified to read them, but I still want to own them because I know that I want to read them one day. So today I thought I would share 6 of those books with you. These I think are the 6 that kind of intimidate me the most. So first up we have the complete works of Chaucer. I am quite scared to pick it up. I would really like to try to read Chaucer. In particular, I'd really like to read the Canterbury Tales. I think I'll enjoy the bizarreness and the bawdiness and quite frankly the silliness, but one, I'm intimidated by the length and the fact that it's written in verse, and then also the fact that it's not written in English as we know it. It really is kind of its own language from what I understand. I mean, it's English, but it's not the English that we know. I mean, I'm just like glancing and okay, that actually is not English. I'm pretty sure that that is in Latin, but like this book is not written in any English that I recognise, so it's not just a case of, you know, reading a very long poem written in verse, it's also understanding an entirely new way of speaking, and that just scares me. This is something that I think one day I'd like to say that I've read the Canterbury Tales, and then to further impress people by saying that I've actually read the complete works of Chaucer, but Next up we have Amsterdam by Ian McEwan. Well, I picked up Amsterdam, but not even necessarily this book, just like most of his books. I've spoken quite lengthily about Atonement being one of my favourite books of all time, and it's not uncommon to hear me refer to Ian McEwan as one of my favourite authors because I think that he has such a phenomenal way with words. However, up until last year, Atonement was the only book of his that I'd read, and I was super intimidated by anything else purely because I'm worried that it's not gonna live up to it. So the only other book of his that I've read was Machines Like Me, which came out last year, and that seemed like more accessible to me because it was about artificial intelligence and had kind of a sci-fi slant, so it seemed more like something I would enjoy in the very like fantasy focused headspace I was in. So I read that and still really enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as Atonement, but despite now having read that and still enjoyed it, I've got like this mental block about all of his other books where I'm just worried that they're not gonna live up to the hype that I've created for them myself, because Atonement means so much to me. I'm just like, no other book of his could, you know, have the same impact on me, and what if I don't enjoy them and then they ruin my understanding of him and like they ruin my love for him, and it's just, I create a lot of unnecessary problems for myself. Next up is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and I don't even feel like I need to explain why this is intimidating to me. Just like, I think everyone is intimidated by Russian authors except for people who have actually read Russian authors who are like, oh, it's not so hard. Isn't it though? Why do we not have this mental block about any other nationality? You know, if you ask me to read something translated from like Japanese or Italian or French or German, I'm gonna be like, sure, lay it on me. Ask me to read someone Russian and I'm terrified. Why? Why are we so scared of the Russians? Is it just because they're like a scary nation? I don't know. but super intimidated by this one. I don't even really know what it's about. I think it's about a guy who gets accused of a crime and then like you follow him through his trial. But that's entirely a guess, and from like little snippets that I've heard from people, I mean, I don't even know why I'm so intimidated by this book, because I don't even know what it's about. It could be about a guy going on a picnic, and I'm just scared of it because it was translated from Russian. I know that that's not what the book's about. Like, you feel there is no reason for me to be so irrationally afraid of this book. But I am, because Dostoevsky was Russian. Also, he has a great name. I really enjoy saying Dostoevsky. You might have noticed. So next up we have Object Lessons. The Paris Review presents the art of the short story, and this was a book that I picked up at a sale, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And it then sat on my shelf for ages. I think I've put it on a couple of TBRs even. I don't love short stories. I am very particular about short stories. I think because of the types of books that I like to read, books that have a lot of character development where you really get to connect with the character, books that have a lot of world building. Like, short stories don't have that because there isn't time for that. It's like a snapshot of someone's life normally, and I like that aspect of it. I do like kind of the idea of slice of life pictures and moments, but I always end up wanting more. Like, the story ends and I just want more. And also, to be honest, a lot of the time I just don't get them. Like, the story will end and I'll just be like, what was the point? So while there are short stories that I really enjoy, I quite enjoy the Roald Dahl short stories because they're really bizarre and messed up. And I have spoken recently about how much I enjoy Raymond Carver's short stories. I also just find that often short stories are a little too pretentious for me. Even me. I'm kind of expecting this one to follow that. I'm expecting to find these short stories like really pretentious, and for them to just be an excuse for the authors to show like how smart they are, that they can condense a story into 10 pages, but you know, most of the time I'm just left feeling stupid and unfulfilled, so I really am a little concerned about reading this one. I think part of the reason I've held on to it so long is because it is so beautiful. Like, this is a gorgeous book, truly. But I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it, and I'm a little scared to try. Next up, we have another Russian classic, and that is War and Peace by Tolstoy. Apparently I can't say Leo Tolstoy. Just did it now. Haven't been able to do it in the 3 times I've tried introducing this book. So, yeah. She thick. She real thick. To show how thick she is, they divided her into 3 books. I have to read 3 books that are only going to be counted as 1 book on my Goodreads. I mean, it's enormous. I have to say, although this is also a Russian classic, I'm not as intimidated by that aspect of it as like with Crime and Punishment, because I have read about 20% of Anna Karenina, which I really enjoyed. I read that when I was in high school, so I'd like to think that I've become somewhat more intellectual since then. I'd like to think that, but I think that actually the opposite is true. I feel like I'm becoming dumber, but there's an issue for another day. So I have read some Tolstoy, I have been introduced to his writing style, and I don't find it that difficult to read or to understand. However, this book is going to take like 3 years of my life to read. When am I ever gonna have time to sit down with this monster? Because if I try to read only this book, I am convinced it will take me like a year to finish, and then I will read nothing else in between. And if I don't read only this book, then I'm gonna put it down to take breaks from it and read other things. And then when I come back to it, I'm not gonna have any idea what's going on, because it is so long. I'm assuming there are so many characters and so many plot points, and if it's anything like Anna Karenina, all of them are gonna have the same fucking name. That is my biggest issue with Tolstoy, actually. I mean, the size of this book, for a start, yes, is terrifying. But also, everybody has the same name. Like, I can't keep track of what's going on because they all have the same name, so you'll read like 2 scenes And if you're not concentrating super hard, you're gonna assume that the same characters are having two completely different conversations because their names are that similar. I feel like when I eventually attempt to read this book, I'm going to need to have a notebook where I make little character profiles of everyone and, you know, their defining traits, because otherwise I am never going to be able to differentiate between people and make sure that I'm like not getting people confused. It's a lot. This book is going to be an experience. One day when I'm retired, I'm assuming by that point I'll have stopped making YouTube videos, but when I'm like 70, I will make a reading vlog of me finally reading War and Peace. And it's gonna take, even when I'm retired and I have zero other responsibilities, it's gonna take me like a year to read it, and I will vlog that year of me reading War and Peace. And then lastly, we have my Irvine Welsh omnibus, which features Trainspotting, The Acid House, and Marabou Stalk Nightmares. So, story time. I first decided that I wanted to read Irvine Welsh because he wrote a book called Ecstasy, and that book is where My Chemical Romance got their name. It's called Ecstasy, and the subtitle is Three Tales, I think, of Chemical Romance. The Way brothers were working in a Barnes & Noble together. Gerard did music, Mikey did books. Mikey was friends with one of the other guys on the staff, and they would always talk about like British culture and British literature, and they started talking about Irvine Welsh one day, and he found this book that said Ecstasy, Three Tales of Chemical Romance, and went to Gerard and was like, hey, this would be a great band name. Let's call our band My Chemical Romance, and thus the name was born. As a result of that little story time, I was like, I'm gonna love Irvine Welsh. I'm gonna go read some Irvine Welsh. Bearing in mind I was 15. So, one, I wanted to read Ecstasy, and then as I was going down this rabbit hole of finding cool and interesting new pop culture to absorb through all of the new music I was listening to, 15 to 17 was like a wonderful time in my life for exposing myself to amazing things. I'm just putting that out there. That, I think, was the time in my life where my interests were like the most niche, and I discovered some really amazing, interesting things through that, but that's also a story for another day. Through going down this rabbit warren, I also discovered the story of Trainspotting and was like, yes, here for that, keen to watch the film, because also it has Ewan McGregor in it, but need to read the book. But I could never find either Ecstasy or Trainspotting at my library, and then eventually I just took out whatever book they did have. I don't remember what it was, but it had an egg on the cover, I think, and I started reading that, and holy shit, not a word made sense to me. So Irvine Welsh writes in very heavy Scottish dialect, and I could not understand a single fucking word. I feel like the only way that I'll be able to read these and understand them is to read them out loud, because I'm not terrible at like understanding what Scottish people are saying when they're talking, but reading it is very different. So the voice that I hear in my head when I'm reading sounds pretty much exactly like my voice. So I'm gonna read a line in this voice, which is the voice I hear in my head. Maybe I got it wrong, like say, I tell him, come on, sex. Let's get oot here, he says. That is gibberish, right? I mean, say it in a Scottish accent and it's gonna make sense. Spend half a second thinking about what it says and it makes sense. But like just reading the words as they are written on the page is gibberish. I just feel like trying to read any of his work is gonna take so much concentration, because I'm gonna have to either read it out loud to myself in a Scottish accent, which I'm not gonna do on camera, like the world does not need to hear that, or I'm going to be sitting there and reading a line, kind of translating it in my head, and it's just gonna take me a really long time to read the book. I feel like if I managed to find some audiobooks, that would actually be a good way of helping it, because I think if I had someone reading it to me, presumably his audiobooks are read in Scottish accents, I would hope so. I feel like if I had someone reading it to me, then it would be more understandable. But yeah, at the moment in print form, it makes no sense. It's just I mean, I don't know how many Scottish subscribers I have. I know like a large portion of my audience is from the UK, but I think most of them are from England. Do you enjoy reading that? Do you enjoy reading in Scottish dialect? It's really hard. So those are 6 of the most intimidating books that I have on my TBR. Feel free to let me know in the comments either what your most intimidating books are, or if you have actually read any of these, please tell me that they are not as scary as I think they are. That would be nice. That would be really great. I'm assuming that none of you are going to tell me that, but it would be awesome if you could. Thank you for watching this video, which basically is just me showing that I'm kind of dumb and just scared of everything that takes like the slightest bit of effort to read. If you did enjoy this, then once again, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Goodreads, you can find links to those in the description, as well as a link to my Etsy store and my Redbubble store, which I haven't actually put into my description yet, so let's hope that I remember to do that when I'm uploading this video. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye!
My life is grounded in a firm routine of coffee, sleep, and work. I am not boring.